Hello and welcome to the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. We're located on the north ramp of the Reading Airport in Reading, Pennsylvania. And we have a pretty amazing collection of aircraft. We have over 120 airframes, both military and civilian. You are currently in the hangar where we have most of our airworthy aircraft. But outside we have a whole collection of other aircraft that are also both military and civilian. Okay, we are now outside on the north ramp at the Reading Municipal Airport at the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. We have a collection of both military and civilian aircraft out here. Some are rare, some are unique, so let's go take a look. Here we have our Martin 404 commercial airliner built by Glenn Martin in Baltimore, Maryland. This is a 40-seat aircraft. It's one class of service. Everybody's treated the same. And we used to use this as an airshow transport. We would sell you a ticket and fly you to an airshow on this back in the day. Here we have a British aircraft. It's called a Vickers 745 Viscount. It has 4 turbojet engines. And it's 60 seats, one class of service, and its claim to fame is it's the first aircraft of its type to be used in commercial service in the US. So behind me is a Navion single-engine 4-seat aircraft built by North American Aviation, the same company that built the P-51 Mustang that was used extensively during World War II. Now over here, we have an airplane called a Cam Air 480, which is a Navion that somebody bought, converted it from single engine to twin engine, and in this particular case it was done by the Cameron Iron Works in Houston, Texas. They built 28 airframes in the 1950s, and as far as we know there are 6 or 7 left in existence, and this museum owns 3 of them. This rather large aircraft that I'm standing underneath is called a C-119 flying boxcar. It is the last C-119 that was retired by the military, and this was an airplane that was operated by the Marine Corps. Interesting note here is there's a very faded logo of something called the Marine Lumber Company, and after its life in the military, this aircraft was used to fly timber up in New England. Okay, we're now standing in front of a very unique aircraft. This is called a Custer Channel Wing, and it is the only airframe in existence. This is an airplane that was built by a guy named Willard Custer down in Hagerstown, Maryland back in 1966. And it's an airplane that can take off and land in about 200 feet, and it has a speed range of about 30 miles an hour to about 200 miles an hour. Okay, this is a very unique feature of this aircraft, these channels. Because these propellers are pulling air through these channels, it creates twice the amount of lift as a normal aircraft, which is why this aircraft can take off and land in such short spaces. The question was posed about what was the intent of this aircraft, and the frank answer is, Willard said it's a problem looking for a solution. So we really don't know why, other than it had some very short takeoff and landing capabilities. We're now standing in front of an aircraft called a C-97. This aircraft belongs to the Berlin Airlift Historical Foundation. It's basically a flying museum about the Berlin airlift. It's an airplane that was based on the airframe of the B-29 bomber, so you get a sense of the size. It has 4 very large 28-cylinder piston engines, and as we walk over to this side of the aircraft, you can see the number 2 engine is missing because it's out being overhauled. That's the propeller, and once that engine is put back on there, this airplane will be airworthy again. And when we go into the hangar, you're going to see just how big these engines are to power this aircraft. Okay, we're standing under the tail of the C-97, and one of the interesting features is that the control surfaces on this aircraft are covered with fabric. So when these were built, there was it was easier to put the fabric on than it was to use the metal to build another airplane. As we walk toward the airframe itself, can look over here out on the outer portions of the wing where it's red. That silver piece, that's all covered in fabric as well. We're now in front of our TBM Avenger. T for torpedo, B for bomber. This is an airplane that was built to go on an aircraft carrier. This particular aircraft was built in 1945. Most famous person you would know that flew this type of aircraft was the first President Bush. He was 18 years old, allegedly the youngest fighter pilot in the Navy during World War II. This aircraft has a crew of 3. There's a pilot. Behind the pilot is a 50 caliber machine gunner, and the 30 caliber machine gunner, navigator, and radio operator, and they get in the aircraft through this door. The pilot climbs up on the wing. Okay, as we mentioned earlier, on almost every one of these aircraft in World War II, all of the control surfaces are made out of fabric. Remember, it was World War II, there was a shortage of metal, whatever they could do to conserve. This was one way. It was also an easy way to repair the damage if there was any. Okay, one of the things you'll notice in this aircraft is the wings are folded up against the fuselage. The reason for that is that these airplanes were on an aircraft carrier where space was limited. And when this aircraft was ready to go off on a mission, the pilot would flip a switch, the wings would unfold and lock into place, and then he can launch off the carrier. Okay, this airplane that you're looking at is called a Beech 18. This is a 1961 model. These airplanes were built between 1937 and 1969. They built about 9,000 of them. These were used as corporate executive transport before the jets became more prominent. These are beautiful aircraft. They fly relatively high, they fly relatively fast, and they're very comfortable. Okay, this is a flight simulator built by the Wright Demo Corporation. You would have seen earlier some information that we have about a link trainer, 1931. This is 1950. This is much more sophisticated. In fact, this is so sophisticated that Pan American Airlines was the first airline to use this to train their pilots to fly on instruments rather than using a real aircraft, because it was much safer and much less expensive. Okay, so what you're looking at here is an aircraft called the Sunray 2. This is an airplane you would build at home. It's basically a racing plane, and it has a speed range of cruises about 140, and the top speed's about 200 miles an hour, and it's powered by a Volkswagen engine. The aircraft I'm standing by now is called a PT-22, built by a company called Ryan out in California. This is a primary trainer, so if you're going to be a pilot in World War II, you would start in something like this. Open cockpit biplane, a couple of hundred horsepower, very little instrumentation, no navigation, no radios. All they wanted to know is, can you fly an airplane? So you'd get 6, 7, 8 hours of instruction. Your instructor hops out. You have to solo the airplane. If you do, great, you're now a pilot. If you don't, you probably wound up in the infantry. Okay, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this tour of the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. If you're interested in becoming a member, it's very inexpensive, allows you access to the museum for free anytime it's open. You can volunteer your time. We need volunteers in a variety of areas. And if you want to get more information on the museum, you can go to our website, www.maam.org. Thank you for your time.